What is the greatest comeback you have said to someone that left them speechless? So one Thanksgiving we were eating dinner at my BF's parents' house. BF's deadbeat cousin was there and kept going on and on about how the family dog recognized him the moment she smelled him. She's blind. My BF's sweet old grandpa was sitting beside me and leaned over to whisper, "It's hard to forget what sheet smells like." I played high school football one year. And after a scrimmage one of my teammates looked at me and said, "Hey, anybody ever told you you suck at football?" And without thinking I replied, "Nobody that matters." He was a bully. But to be fair, I really did suck at football. When I worked at Starbucks, there was someone who spilled a bunch of coffee and was trying to clean it herself. My coworker walks up to clean it for real. "Coffee spiller, it's okay. I got it. I'm a waitress. I do this all the time." Coworker, "You spill coffee all the time?" He was trying to make a joke. But she just looked at him with a blank expression and walked away. Do you realize you always answer a question with a question? Without even thinking. Does that bother you? Hanging out with friends. Throwing crap at each other. My wife, no, not my face, it's my moneymaker. Me, no wonder we're always broke. She found it as hilarious as I did. My sister got me good once when I was about 19. My job then was newspaper delivery. I went into a room and saw my dog sound asleep on the couch and I went, "Tough life. Huh. All you do is eat, sleep and cheat." My sister responds from the other room, "That's all you do to accept you have a paper route." I couldn't even think of a response. Back when I was a smoker, I went to a gas station late at night to buy a pack. It was late, so instead of going inside you had to order at this little walk-up window. When the attendant slid my cigs under the slot and I grabbed them, the kid behind me goes, "Don't you know smoking can heal you?" And I said, "Yeah. So can talking to strangers." Working retail and an hour-long barrage of anger from a customer lead to me filling out a return form while he leant over me aggressively telling me how he would end me and my career, end the business before I snapped, stood up, pointed at his address on the invoice and said, "The difference between you and me is I know where you live." He grabbed his form and bolted. Still know that ducker's address near 8 years later. Edit, you guys really like glitter and poop. Edit 2. Here's the full story I wrote out on Funny Junk back when green text style writing was destroying the internet. Funnyjunk.com. Was in the army. A master corporal of mine overheard a sick story I was telling. He said, "Your sister doesn't count." I said, "No. But yours does." He laughed. I did drill for an extra hour. Well. No sheet. What have we got here? A ducking comedian? Private joker? I admire your honesty. Hell. I like you. You can come over to my house and duck my sister. I used to work with this guy who would always bring up the fact that his dad walked out on his family. There could be two people having a conversation on the other side of the room. And he'd hear one of them say the word dad and he'd interject with something like, "Must be nice to have a dad." I wouldn't know. My dad left us when I was 6 and we haven't seen him since. This guy was also just a generally unlikable person and kind of antagonistic towards everyone and everything. So he didn't generate much sympathy with these antics. One day I told him to do something and we had this exchange. "You're not my dad. If I were your dad, I would have walked out on you too." When I was working in retail, my manager, who was a bigger fellow, and I used to talk shit to each other for fun. One day he was congratulating himself for being such a good shit talker and he said something like, "I'm the king of throwing shade. I throw mad shade." To which I replied, "You do cast a white shadow." Not me. But I was there for it. Doing early document research way down in the basement of a big law firm. Working on a med mal defense. This case involved where a guy went into an urgent care complaining about frequent urination. Doctor ran a few tests, prescribed him some medication for BPH and let him go. Eventually goes to another DR, I think it was like a year later. He has prostate cancer and it's spread. By this stage it's inoperable. 95% of the time these cases are just grieving families channeling their anger inappropriately. Anyway. Going through docs with me and 2 colleagues. Let's call them Brad and Amy. Amy looks at some report and is like, yeah. Our doctor is in the wrong here. This blood test has a normal range of XY. His is Z. This should have led to follow up. He probably would have lived if they caught it then. Brad looks at her and says in just about the most condescending voice possible, and where did you go to medical school? Amy answers Yale. Turns out, Amy had done her med school and left during her 2nd year of rotations. Deciding that being a DR wasn't for her, she decided to enroll in law school. I was at the gym about 6 months ago and this guy I went to high school with approached me. He graduated a year ahead of me and opened with snack and squats. I stare back at him uncomfortably. Full stop. I recognize him but don't remember his name. I thought that was you. You used to be so weird. Everyone thought you were so weird. Yeah. Probably he starts telling a story about casually bullying me. The good old days. Sweet memories. Act. And then finishes it with, but you look so great now. I have always thought you were beautiful. What do you think about me? I don't think about you. He stared at me. And I continued to stare at him until he finally walked away. I was waiting in line at a bar for drinks when this massive jock dude tried to cut in front of me. I am 5 feet 7 inches. 145 pounds. And he was at least a half foot taller and outweighed me by 80 pounds. When I call him out he went off on me, calling me a little itch and a pussy. In my drunken confident state I said to him, I'm standing up to a guy twice my size and you're picking a dude half your side. Who's the real pussy in this situation? He just stood there and stared daggers into me. He eventually said that when I leave I better watch my back. Edit. Spelling. Was over at a friend's house in JI and his dad was making jokes about me having a small big dick for some reason, but I just paid it no mind even though it bugged me. Couple hours pass and he comes in the room again and says something like, Dixie 745 you find your peen yet? Before I could stop myself I blurted out, yeah, it was in your wife's mouth. Needless to say I was asked to leave that day. How her honesty though, WTF, what he expecting? Woman at work asked me if her forehead was too shiny. I told her on the plus side. If you ever get lost in the mountains you can use it to signal aircraft. She slapped me. But not in a serious way. Annoying coworker asked me, what do you even do all day? I wasn't having it. Not today. So I said, not wasting other people's time. The office went quiet. The president called me and congratulated me on the sweet burn. The hottest blonde fell into my lap and we made out. The boss let me go home early and gave me a raise. Everyone cheered as I walked out. And then I woke up. Duck. In a tantrum. My 6-year-old son told me I was a bad daddy. I immediately deadpanned he was adopted. The stunned look on my boy's face is seared in my brain. Not my proudest parenting moment. I bulleted my way through an HTML course in college. Our final project was making a website for a company. Mine was a coffee company and it was perfectly functional but trash. It was ugly. All the colors clashed. It kinda did actually hurt your eyes if you looked at it for too long. The text was colored all ducked up and nearly blended with a background, so you had to really try to read it. It was really bad. But functionally perfect. Which was the point. So as we were presenting, my instructor pointed out every visual flaw. She just dreamed it. She said it was the ugliest site she had ever graded and I was lucky I wasn't graded on how visually displeasing it was. I made an effort to sound professional as I explained, my site caters to the younger crowd. You are not my target demographic. Thank you for your input though. It was probably as legend as I'll ever be. She was probably like 35-40 years old or something. Got a 100% though. I have great renewable success with I can live with that, it fit most things and is usually unexpected. I was at Target once with my then roommate and I was buying some NAR for some personal grooming. When checking out, my roommate made sure to say right in front of the female cashier, "Dude, why are you buying Naya?" I responded, "So you don't get hair in your mouth." That shut him up.